I love Point Blank. For me, there's nothing quite like visiting the local arcade bar, seeing that beauty in the corner, and blasting some targets and leaving your name on the scoreboard for nobody to admire. Point Blank is a trilogy of light gun shooters made by the wonderful people at one of my favourite gaming brands, Namco, who some time ago did a Dragon Ball Z fusion with Bandai to create Bandai Namco. Point Blank features two gun-wielding mascots, Dr. Dan and Dr. Don. Don't ask me which one is which. One or two players shoot their way through multiple mini-games, each one with their own objectives and a time limit. Think of it a bit like WarioWare, except you have a gun. Ooh. Minigames vary from shooting a target with just one bullet to going all out and remorselessly decimating someone's vehicle. Some games you'll need to be more careful, as you can lose one or many of your limited number of lives from the following: shooting a bomb, cardboard hostage, oh for goodness sake, get out the way, the other player's coloured target, as well as failing to reach a level's criteria. Players' scores are determined through three factors: the number of successful shots, accuracy, and shooting speed. 100% accuracy rewards the player with an extra 1,000 points. Occasionally you'll bump into a level which is set to very hard, or if you're playing Point Blank 2 and 3, wait for it, insane! The game ends when you run out of lives and you don't continue, or until you've played all 16 minigames and 2 bonus stages on your playthrough. At the end of a successful run, the game will show your overall score with a ranking on how well you've done, with the encouragement to play on harder difficulties if you manage to ace your way through it. Or if you've nailed very hard, you'll apparently rank among the elite players. Oh, thank you. All 3 games play generally the same, but with differently designed levels. So it seems the main aim of Point Blank was merely to make it through to the end and reach the top of the scoreboard while you're at it. Which is all well and good, but how about a bigger incentive? Like, let's say, cash? Legend tells of an old light gun arcade cabinet that Namco created after the trilogy. This is no ordinary light gun game. This machine tests your skills through various mini-games, and the successful player can potentially win a promising sum of pocket money depending on their performance. This machine went by the simple name of Aim for Cash. Now this is probably the part where everybody says that this is going to be a rigged game, and if any redemption games that give out money are anything to go by, there's no way that anyone can get money off of this. And if that were the case, I wouldn't be making this video. Well, in the early hours of the morning, I decided to take a little trip to an arcade that actually has this game. Welcome to Scarborough. A quaint, nostalgic town with plenty of activities, restaurants, a lush beach, and arcades, or amusements, in abundance. Here is where I was fortunate enough to find one of the elusive Aim for Cash machines. So, it's time to put my Point Blank skills to good use. Now, how do we go about winning the jackpot in this game? Let's start from the top. You can choose from 3 out of 8 random levels when you begin. Each level gives you an objective, and if you manage to shoot down X number of required targets for instance, you'll succeed in beating the level. You'll get a small sum of cash added to the cash pot. The better you perform, i.e. the more targets you shoot, the faster you shoot and the less that you miss, the more the cash sum adds up. Getting through the level without failing, or shooting a target you're not supposed to hit, adds 10% to the winnings, as indicated by the little heart. The first level, if you're successful, gives you a modest total which can range between £1 to £2, but as you progress the cash prize will start to build up considerably, sometimes to around about 14 to 15 quid. Afterwards, it's time to face the final stage, where if you beat the level by meeting its criteria, you win the money that you've accumulated through the previous 3 levels. As someone who's played this machine in the past, I can confirm that you can actually win money from this, but there are some things that we'll need to consider. If you've played Point Blank 3, you may have noticed Aim for Cash uses the exact same mini-games. So if you happen to have a copy of Point Blank 3 along with a CRT telly and a G-Con 45 at home, it might be an idea to get some practice in. According to the cabinet, the maximum payout in one game is 40 quid! Now hang on, you might find that on average you get around about £15 give or take, but I've noticed on the start screen that if you play on 2-player mode, you can actually play 4 stages instead of 3. So which level should we focus on in order to get the best results for the cash pool? Well, I practiced on PS1's Point Blank 3 before heading to the arcade. Just like in the original trilogy, you get a better score based on the 3 factors I mentioned previously: more targets shot, shooting speed, and accuracy. The first level you play will start off nice and easy. The second is around about medium, the third level is harder, but stage 4 is pretty much the insane difficulty. But the higher the difficulty, the more of a reward you'll accumulate depending on your performance. I'm still trying to figure out the best order to play, but I've noticed the following in this order are usually the best for scores. For the first level, I've noticed playing either the football level or the swinging body target first is usually best, because the targets are easy enough to hit, and if you shoot them without any misses, that's a guaranteed £2 adding a couple pennies in, which is practically the maximum starting point. The second level I'm not too sure about, but I noticed going crazy on the Monster Egg level gives promising results. Third and fourth level you can play any of the following: the body target conveyor belt, target cubes, Chicken River, and Skeletons. These levels seem to give the best results, particularly on the harder difficulties, as you'll have plenty of targets to shoot. After 3 or 4 stages, it'll be time for the jackpot level. The game will randomly decide from one of 8 jackpot levels. Beat that and the money is as good as yours. Some of the levels you can beat without too much of a problem. The others are just flat out designed to prevent you from winning. Occasionally, you'll spot a coin either lying around or hidden away in the level. If you shoot that down, you instantly get a quid back, almost like you played the game for free unless you've done it on 2-player. I've practiced all of the jackpot levels on Point Blank 3 back at home on Insane, and felt pretty confident I could do the same on Aim for Cash. But there's just one problem. The Aim for Cash versions of the levels are even harder than Insane difficulty. Starting with these 2 single bullet levels. One of the doctors is spinning on a wheel and you have to shoot the target that's inside it, with 1 bullet. There's also a target that sways and floats upwards on a balloon, along with a multitude of other balloons that can block your shot. In Point Blank 3, the targets are rather small, but still possible to shoot. The targets on Aim for Cash, however, are near minuscule. These levels are weird because they can be won, and I've done it at least once.
Oh my god, I actually got it.
After that, I just can't seem to manage at all. I've noticed after a couple more tries, the game either messes with the hit detection or sabotages your accuracy. Next are the levels where you might as well not bother. One minigame has you shooting down more body targets. You have to shoot 45 of them. They appear in groups of 4, and which ones turn and reveal themselves first is random. Shoot them quickly, because if you miss one, it'll take its sweet time exiting and will cost you a win, assuming that's even possible to begin with. And no matter how efficiently I shoot them down, I feel there's never enough of the damn things. Even if you shoot each one down, you still fall short because of the strict time limit and the finite amount of targets that appear.
Oh.
So that's yet to be proven if it can be beaten. Another ridiculous level, this time you have rows of Dr. Dan or Don, but you have to find 5 of them with a different appearance. In 3 seconds. There's always going to be 1 or 2 of these doctors whose differences are too hard to notice in such a short time span. Basically, it's Spot the Difference, Ultra Instinct Edition. And the last level, which is pretty much impossible, you have 6 different body targets. You have to score 600 points. In other words, shoot the smallest area of the 6 targets that give you 100 points each. And believe you me, it's harder than it looks. Not only does the distance of each target become further and further away, so you need to have a spot-on precise aim, but the game, once again, will butcher your accuracy. Look at this! You can see how far that is from the center of the operational part of the gun. If you see the coin on the floor, forget about winning the jackpot, just get your quid back. With those out of the way, if you happen to be fortunate, you bring your lucky 4-leaf clover with you, the clouds part with the sun beaming down into the window of the arcade, the angels sound the sweet trumpets of salvation, 1,000 shooting stars blaze across the deep reaches of space, and the moon lies within the 8th house of Sagittarius. You'll come across one of of the 3 winnable levels. You know you're in good hands if you see any levels with the round black and white targets. The first one we'll call Glass Walls. Shoot down all of the targets and be careful not to shoot the glass prematurely. If you smash any of the glass and leave any targets to drop and disappear, it's mission failed. Keep a consistent rhythm when shooting them down, and as soon as the targets on that glass wall are gone, shoot the glass twice and move on to the next wall.
Yeah, we did it. We won £6.
Next is the sliding doors level. 1 or 2 out of 6 doors will open up randomly, each with 9 targets behind them. Mow them down quickly before the door closes, but don't worry too much if you don't get them all in one go, that door will usually open up again. Shoot all of the targets to win. Lastly is the disc. Shoot the targets on both sides of a disc that will move in different directions depending on where you shoot it. Shooting the same spot twice speeds the trajectory of the disc. For the last 2 levels, I suggest moving to a different style of shooting, which I'm simply going to call the rapid style. Hold the gun with your non-dominant hand and using the other to fire the trigger rapidly, like so. Use the trail of bullets on screen to get an idea on where you need to move the gun. Now you're probably wondering, what are the chances of these 3 levels actually coming up? Honestly, that's something I can't fully conclude on. There are times where I just got lucky and walked out of the arcade with
35 quid!
Other times I spent a bit more than I should. Which reminds me, gamble responsibly. I'm only doing this to experiment and to give you folks at home an idea of whether or not it's worth going for the jackpot. Let's just say, we'd better not quit our day jobs. Now there is one other YouTuber who goes by Gamer Muscle Videos who's talked about the likelihood, and supposedly it comes down to not being greedy and going for a smaller jackpot. Because if the machine doesn't have as much money as the jackpot, it'll give you an impossible level. But that's not always the case. Both of us have beaten jackpot levels and managed to make the machine run out of cash. You can tell this happened when you see this screen. I am not a normal human being. I've managed to consistently get around £35 more or less in one go, but I've never won it. As much as we all want the bragging rights, I can promise you it is not worth going for the max jackpot, because I get the level with the 6 targets almost every time. So I seem to only ever get the best levels when I go around the £5 to £16 threshold, but I still don't think this is the determining factor as to whether or not you get the winnable level. Does it come down to performance, money in the machine, or is it just a case of not so favourable RNG? I've even stumbled across the cabinet's instructions, and it gives me very little idea on whether or not you can adjust the chances apart from an option regarding payout percentage. So it may have something to do with the system's internal bookkeeping. It keeps a history of how many times the game's been played, how many times money came out of the hopper, as well as how many times it's shown the payout error message. In other words, it might be a case of you win so many times and the game decides, nah, I've had enough of your shenanigans, no more wins for you. Regardless, there is some skill involved, but not 100%. There's more chance involved if anything, and you'll probably end up spending more money than what comes out of the machine at the end. I don't think this machine can be seen anywhere else in England these days, or in the world for that matter, and according to an arcade finding website, it's absolutely nowhere else to be seen. And I've had no luck finding out what happened to these cabinets and why there's supposedly only one left standing. Did arcades realise they'd be bled dry if they had proficient players playing it regularly? This machine is more or less a relic, and I wanted to cover it before the day it ever ends up becoming lost to time, unless some lucky arcade fans manage to preserve it. It's definitely an interesting machine that uses cash as an incentive to keep playing. But despite having a higher percentage payout than, say, your local slot machines or the rigged monstrosity that is Zingy, which I see everywhere, there's still a stronger element of chance, and if not played responsibly, there's a higher chance you'll burn a hole in your wallet. So that was Aim for Cash in a nutshell, and apart from another arcade named Silent Scope Fortune Hunter, I'm not aware of any other arcade games like this. Will we ever see another arcade game that gives you cash and revolves more around skill than chance? Probably not. Now if you excuse me, I'm off to spend a fraction of my winnings on some chippy. Lovely day for it. Cool. So, what next? If only there were other games with the potential to win, if not money, then some sort of prize. Hang on. What is that? Here's where the real fun begins.